I'm Matt. Welcome back to Sailing Moxie, the channel devoted to the refit of my Hunter 54 and my sailing and traveling adventures. I am currently in the BVI's, working as a mate engineer on a sailing yacht. We've been to Antigua, spent a few weeks there. We went to St. Martin for a few days. Now we're in the BVI's bouncing around. And off to new adventures. So a few weeks ago in the mail, I received my captain's license from the U.S. Coast Guard. I'll explain the license and endorsements I earned shortly. But I was pretty excited to finally receive this after lots of hard work, classes, exams, and paperwork. In this video, I'll primarily discuss the 6-pack Captain's License, or OUPV. I'll also discuss the Coast Guard application process for credentials, the costs involved, and some terminology you should know. So be sure to stay tuned for that. One comment I want to make up front is that every single license or endorsement I mention here is meant by the governing organizations to increase the safety of vessels and lives at sea. That's ultimately what this is all about. You'll see that as we proceed. Another comment is that in other countries outside the United States, a U.S. Coast Guard license may or may not carry any weight. So be sure to take that into consideration. The U.S. Coast Guard requires a captain's license to operate a commercial vessel or to take passengers on a vessel for hire. The 6-pack, or OUPV license, is the entry-level license to do this. The Coast Guard's title for this is National Operator of Uninspected Passenger Vessel, of less than 100 gross register tons. It limits the vessel operator to 6 paying passengers, not including professional crew. This is what most people identify as a captain's license or charter captain's license. It is commonly held by fishing charter captains, dive boat captains, and for small sunset cruises, whale or dolphin tours, or sightseeing tours. So what are the requirements? First, you must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident alien. Non-U.S. citizens applying for OUPV will be limited to service on undocumented vessels. You must be at least 18 years old. You must pass the Coast Guard administered exam or provide a certificate of course completion from a Coast Guard approved course. You must pass a physical and be able to possess a valid medical certificate, as well as a drug screen or be drug testing compliant. You must hold current CPR and first aid certifications. You must apply for or hold a TWIC card, or Transportation Workers Identification Credential. Considering experience on the water or sea service, you must have at least 360 days of underway boating experience on vessels of any tonnage since your 16th birthday. 90 of these days need to be in the last 3 years, what is known as recency. Finally, you must submit an application, usually by mail or email, and pay the Coast Guard processing fees. All of this information is available through the Coast Guard's National Maritime Center website. The NMC's Credential Checklist site is a great resource for all this information. This is the authority on all subjects related to Coast Guard credentials and the licensing process. In general, licenses awarded by the Coast Guard consider experience on the water or sea service, time and tonnage, how many days you have on the water, what size vessels you served on, and where those vessels operated. Gross registered tons, or tonnage, is a measure of the ship's total usable internal volume, not weight or displacement. 1 ton is equal to 100 cubic feet. Tonnage comes more into play for master licenses, but for the 6-pack, all licenses are for uninspected vessels less than 100 gross tons, regardless of sea service. The 6-pack endorsement will limit where you can operate based on the location of your sea service: inland, Great Lakes, or near coastal. Inland is within the boundary line as defined by Title 46, Part 7 of the Code of Federal Regulations. The boundary line marks the dividing point between internal and offshore waters. It generally follows the high tide waterline along beaches and shores, and extends across the entrances to small bays, inlets, harbors, and rivers, with a few notable exceptions, such as the 12-mile limit in the Gulf of Mexico. The boundary line is also used in crediting inland or offshore sea service. The boundary line is such an important concept that the Coast Guard has a website devoted to it. Great Lakes is pretty self-explanatory. Great Lakes endorsements require 90 days operating vessels on the Great Lakes. Great Lakes endorsements also include the ability to operate on inland waters. A near-coastal endorsement for OUPV requires at least 90 days operating vessels on near-coastal or further waters. In general, the Coast Guard considers near-coastal waters as within 200 miles outside of the boundary line. However, for the purposes of OUPV, a near-coastal endorsement limits the operator to 100 miles offshore or outside the boundary line. A near-coastal license also allows for operation inland and within the Great Lakes. The OUPV or six-pack license is not valid for international voyages. Other key terms to note here are uninspected vessel versus inspected vessel. The six-pack license is limited to uninspected passenger vessels. Inspected vessels are those inspected by the Coast Guard and that have been issued a Certificate of Inspection or COI. These are subject to regulations of the U.S. Coast Guard and must be built and maintained in accordance with rigid commercial vessel inspection standards. This generally applies to commercial passenger vessels capable of carrying more than 6 paying passengers, cargo vessels, and tank vessels. A master credential is required to operate a Coast Guard inspected vessel and also has tonnage and location restrictions. I should mention that any Coast Guard license is good for 5 years and needs to be renewed through required sea service and/or refresher courses, as well as a renewal packet to the NMC. I did my captain's license courses and exams at Sea School, which offers classroom and practical instruction around the country, online courses, and distance learning courses. Even if you do an online course, the exams must be taken in person. Sea School makes getting your license as easy as possible. Their motto is, "We hold your hand till it holds a license." They provided all the course materials and tools required, though depending on which version of the course you take, you may have to buy your own parallel ruler and dividers, which were required for charting for the course and exams. You can get those online or at places like West Marine for a few bucks. The 54-hour Sea School course and exams cover practical aspects of boating, including topics like rules of the road, radio operation, survival techniques, distress signaling, boating terminology, boat equipment, use of flares and safety equipment, use of life jackets, seamanship techniques, anchoring, aids to navigation, boat registration, navigation, knot tying, firefighting, and charting. The exams were broken into 4 sections, including Deck General, Navigation General, Chart Plotting, and Rules of the Road. You will feel far more confident about boating and operating a vessel once you complete the course of instruction if you decide to do it. In general, between the course, exams, and all the other requirements I mentioned, you should expect to pay about $1,000 total to get your captain's license. But this can be well worth it if you'd like to become a charter captain, or even if you just want to gain additional knowledge and boating proficiency to operate more safely. Here are my costs broken down for the OUPV. The process for submitting everything to the Coast Guard was pretty straightforward. The NMC website gives all the information you'll need to submit a packet for any license, credential, or endorsement. All the forms are available online. Sea School also made things very easy. They provided all the paperwork and also provided examples and explanations of how to fill things out, including sea service forms. They also helped set up my physical and drug screen during my courses. For the paperwork, they have a service where you can submit your packet to them for review, pay a few dollars, and they will identify any gaps or errors. I submitted all my forms to them through email as a PDF packet. and once everything was reviewed and corrected through a few emails back and forth, they sent it directly to the NMC for me through email and CC'd me. This helped to make sure my packet had the best chance of getting approved without any issues. The NMC kept me updated by email as the packet went through the various approvals. And 8 weeks later, I received the license in the mail. The Merchant Mariner credential looks a bit like a red passport. It felt great finally getting this in my hands. I won't go into detail here, but I immediately upgraded my license to a 25-ton inland master license with additional coursework and exams at Sea School. I also added the following endorsements to my Merchant Mariner credential: U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Sail and Assistance Towing. And over a few weeks, I also did some additional STCW endorsements, including basic training, security awareness, and vessel personnel with designated security duties. But more on those another time. From start to finish, I completed all these courses and exams in about 6 weeks. But I crammed a lot into that 6 weeks on top of the 6-pack course. Those are the details about the 6-pack Captain's License, or OUPV, and the one that most people will be interested in. So there you have it, I got my Captain's License. Above all, I learned a lot during this experience, both about the subject matter and the process. No matter what the vessel or situation, with or without a license, you must always operate a vessel as safely as possible and within the passenger limits of the vessel. As the operator or master of the vessel, the safety of the vessel, those on board, and those around you is your responsibility. I hope you found this video informative. If you have any questions, check out the NMC website or contact Sea School or your local maritime education institution for the best and most up-to-date information. A lot of the Coast Guard rules can be confusing, so activate the Google machine or contact the NMC with questions. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. More updates soon on Moxie's refit and other adventures. And be sure to follow me on Instagram, where I provide additional posts and updates. As always, thanks for watching Sailing Moxie.